Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another book review on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and the book we are taking a look at today is the 1100-page tome, AK47, The Grim Reaper, 2nd edition, by Frank Iannamico. The first edition came out in 2008. This expands it by about 250 pages, and this was published in 2012. Now, this is a pretty ambitious book. This is an attempt to cover the entirety of the AK story in a single volume, which is kind of like saying we're going to cover the entire AR-15 in one book, or the entire, Mauser in one book. There's just a lot going on here. So the book begins with a discussion of basically Russian development of the AK. So the original AK, going through the Type 1, 2, and 3 milled receiver guns, well, Type 1s, and then 2 and 3 milled receiver guns, then development of the AKM, then development of the AK-74, and then development of some of the more recent variations, some of the alternative guns, the AK-107 and 108 counterbalanced systems. There's a bit of information on those, the AN-94, the AEK rifle, touches on all of those things and gives you a good overview of Russian development and Russian manufacturing and production. Then it goes into the Warsaw Pact and the various countries in the Warsaw Pact that also manufactured AKs and the different variations that they made and when they made them and how and why. And then a section on countries outside of the Warsaw Pact that manufactured AKs, like, for example, China, of course. And then goes into a section on the AK in the United States. So the importation of AKs into the US, and then implications of the assault weapons ban of 1994, what specific guns that were imported were changed to work around that legislation and be imported or manufactured in the United States. And then it finishes off with a couple sections on ancillaries, accessories, ammunition, magazines, that sort of thing. And then at the very end is a color section on kind of like a color identification guide. So profiles of the major standard patterns from all of these countries that have been previously discussed. And that brings me to one of my main complaints about the book, which is that it is, except for that last section at the end, it is all in black and white. And I think for a book published in 2012, really, it ought to be in color. I think it would bring a lot to the presentation value of the book to be able to see some of these pictures in color. And I suspect a lot of the photographs and a lot of them are photographs that are going to be a little tricky to reproduce, but I suspect they were originally taken in black and white quite some time ago, and the files survived as black and white, and there wasn't an option to just use the color version, which is unfortunate. In general, the question that comes up with this particular book is, how does it stand? There are a couple of other really quite good books on the AK that are out there, and the question is, how does this one compare to those? So the other two that are out there are, the first one printed is Kalashnikov the Arms and the Man. This is the updated version of Edward Ezel's book, the AK47 story, and this is a book with a lot of provenance. It's got a lot of good information. The foreword to the revised and expanded version of this book was written by Mikhail Kalashnikov, so this is a good book. There's a lot of information in here. However, there are also a few errors in this book because it was one of the first ones printed. Then we also have the Kalashnikov Encyclopedia by Dr. Cor Rudhorst. This is volume 1 of 3. It is a massive book. I don't know if you can see it. I've got the other two just off camera down there on the shelf. So how do you compare these 3 different books? Well, I would say in general, the most technically detailed of them is the collector grade book by Ezel. In particular, this has a bunch of information on the early Kalashnikov prototype guns, his clip loading SKS sort of like rifle that he developed first, and then guns like the AK-46 prototypes. There is in general more detailed technical information, not just there, but across the board. This has discussion of the Fedorov rifles. It has a lot of contextual information around the AK. And it has more sort of tabulated data. It has a number of bits in there by Kalashnikov himself, which is, it's hard to get more authoritative than commentary by the guy who actually designed the gun. So this is a fantastic book. It's the most technical of them. The Kalashnikov Encyclopedia is the widest ranging. If you're looking for a particular obscure variation of the AK, this is the volume, or the 3 volumes, that you're going to want to get, because this has more versions of the AK than any of these 3 books. It is also probably the least professional looking of the books. It's got the least, I don't really want to say the least production value, but it looks a little bit chaotic flipping through. The pictures tend to vary more in size and format, and this has a lot of photographs that are sourced from a wide variety of places, both online and people who had cameras in various places. And it kind of looks a bit chaotic. Iannamico's book, let's see if we can put this somewhere. Iannamico's book really falls into the middle ground in several different categories here. It doesn't quite have as much technical information as collector grade, but it's got, I think, better put together contextual information than the Kalashnikov Encyclopedia. The layout is better than the Kalashnikov Encyclopedia. I have a few quibbles about it, aside from the aforementioned issue with all the colors, all the pictures being black and white. I think also, like, there ought to be more, the text, this is probably getting really nitpicky, but the text to picture ratio in there seems to me to be heavily on the side of photographs when it doesn't necessarily benefit from it. So there's a lot of white space on the pages. All right, let's take a look through the book here for a moment. We've got our table of contents here. You can pause the video and take a look at everything that is specifically covered if you like. And then we're going to get into some of the actual informative chapters. Now, some of the stuff, my nitpicky complaint here, and I think this comes from the fact that I'm starting to work more on my own book, is looking at this, there's a lot of white space left open on the page. So the whole bottom section here, the whole top section, there's a lot of space that could be used for more text or to place some of these pictures. There's a lot of white space in and around these pictures. So that makes the overall length of the book, I think, a bit larger than it really needs to be. Something like this. There's not a lot here, but it takes up the whole page. So anyway, allow me to continue talking about this while we flip through the rest of the book. So this may not have quite as much raw information in it as the encyclopedia, and it doesn't have quite as much technical stuff in there, especially early developmental information, as Ezel's book. But if you're only going to get one of the 3 as a general purpose reference on the AK, this would, I would say, be the best one to get, because it does the best job of covering the most of everything. This is like the jack of all trades of the AK books that are available out there now. There are a couple others that I don't have. There's one by Duncan Long, there's one by Joe Poyer. I think both of those are substantially less valuable than any of the 3 that we took a look at, in particular less valuable than this. This is a much better book for the same purpose than either of those 2, and I would highly recommend this over either of those. I would also, if you're a person like me, I would recommend getting all 3. Get this, get the Ezel book, and get the Kalashnikov Encyclopedia, because there are places where there is no overlap between the 3, where you'll need any and all of them. But if you're only looking for one, I think this is your best bet. So cover price on this is $70, and it is back in print. The first edition got really expensive for a little while when it ran out of print. Now that this one's in print currently and still available from the publisher, it's relatively cheap, especially for an 1,100-page book. I have links in the description text below to both the publisher, Chipotle Publishing, you can pick it up from them, and also Amazon, where you can pick it up from a variety of different sellers. So if you're looking for a good reference book on the AK, this is an excellent solution to that need. So stick around. We'll have a forgotten weapon tomorrow for you and another book review next week. Thanks for watching.